So yeah, for today, we're going to do a quick 30-minute presentation. We're going to keep it fairly to the point and quite fast-paced. So definitely, if I skip over something, please feel free to raise your hand or send a chat or Q&A. And Taylor from our company is on the call as well, so she'll flag me if anything, if there's any questions that I kind of need to address during the process. Otherwise, we'll have time at the end, and anybody that cares to stay past the initial session, welcome to answer any and all questions that you might have. And then next week, we'll have the video follow-up as well. So jumping in a tiny bit about my own background, I started doing online marketing for a software company back in 2001, eventually ended up running online sales and marketing for that company, which at that time was about 12 or $13 million of sales online of their $30 to $50 products. Ended up leaving that company for a startup and then a San Diego software company for the couple of years after the first company. And then in 2007, founded PlusROI Online Marketing. And we serve clients here in Victoria, BC, as well as around the globe, just about every continent. We've never done South America, but so if anybody has a lead on South America, let me know. But yeah, I think that's the only only continent that we haven't had clients on at this point. And something I'm really proud of is that as a tiny Victoria agency, we've actually been acknowledged as a Google Premier Partner, which means in their words that we're in the top 3% of Google agencies in the country. And we've been a Premier Partner for 7 years now. So yeah, speaks a lot to our ads team that works on all the Google stuff. And I'm just so proud of that. And then, last year we incorporated What Works Marketing, bit of a different company than PlusROI. Basically, through What Works, we serve small to medium local service businesses. So folks that are advertising in a specific market, which dramatically different set of activities than what we do for the companies through What Works through PlusROI that are advertising a bit of a larger market. So these free Google tools, let's jump into the good stuff. We use most of these tools for every client we work with, and you should really use these tools as well if you're at all serious about your online presence. We're not talking about Google Analytics today. We actually did a webinar on Google Analytics last month, and there's a link in the presentation later on to that presentation if you want to catch up on Google Analytics, especially with Google Analytics 4. It's gotten quite complex and in-depth, so we're gonna leave that out today. There's a couple other tools I haven't touched on that include Google Maps, which is fantastic if you want to create custom maps and that sort of thing, particularly if you're kind of into geeking out a bit on that kind of stuff. There's just some incredible stuff you can do with Google Maps. And also Google Fonts is a great resource. Google makes a whole ton of fonts available online. You can find a match for just about any traditional font, and often to use those on your website, it's just an easier technical process than using some of the other font solutions. So jumping right in, the first tool that we'll have a look at is Google Search Console. And Google Search Console is essentially Google's diagnostics of your site and search from Google's perspective. And interestingly, almost nobody uses it. And I mean, certainly people do, but I would say less than 10% of clients we work with have ever even installed or looked at their Google Search Console. So it helps you identify indexing issues. So if you're not showing up in Google, you can figure out why not and then address it, ask Google to reconsider. You can look at your keyword rankings and your performance. And Google Search Console is also fantastic for monitoring your search engine optimization progress. So if you're looking to see if you're making sort of month over month improvement, Google Search Console allows you to see your volume of searches coming through Google and then compare that month over month. And the one suggestion that I would make in doing that is to remove your brand searches. So in that way, if you remove from the totals, if you remove the searches of people searching for your company name, then you get a really good look at how you're doing with all the product or service specific keywords that you're trying to rank for. So let's just have a quick look here, and I won't go too deep or we'll get in all sorts of trouble. I'll have a look at and this is the Google Search Console interface. There's a lot going on in there, a lot we could cover, but the most important things are this indexing report. So I'll go to the report. At first, and this is our own PlusROI site, at first it looks a bit alarming that there's 736 pages not indexed by Google. That said, that's just fine because WordPress creates all sorts of pages that aren't really supposed to be indexed. So we can dig into that and just see, for instance, there's pages excluded by a no index tag, which means that either we or our website platform have tagged them to not be indexed. And if you had a page that you just couldn't get to show up in Google, you might go and look at it, look and see if it's in here. But having a look in here again, you see there's various feeds. So yeah, these feed ones and these other sort of date-oriented categories, they're not meant to be indexed. So again, I'm not even remotely worried about that and have actually looked through. And then there's a whole bunch of other causes of why pages might not show up. This 404 one is quite important. Again, just to go through and make sure if there are any pages that are not showing up. And again, I'm looking in, and none of these are actually pages that are live or should be showing right now. So that's yeah. So just kind of having to scroll through. And again, literally, if you were doing it, you would go through and look through all your 404s and make sure there were no pages not showing up that should be showing up. And this is particularly important if there are people linking to those pages. So backing right out of that, going back to the index, this is the fun area. And this performance, the performance one is, sorry, for some reason I've lost my button by backing up too many times. So there we go. There's my full report. This is the area in particular that marketers are going to look at. So if, I mean, it might be your web developer that looks at the issues, but this is actually where we see where the rubber hits the road in terms of how often you're showing up in search, your click-through rates, and your average position. And don't be alarmed by the summaries when you look at it, because you can see obviously average position of 55.4 is pretty awful, but that's actually of all the keywords that you showed up for remotely at that time. So there's lots that'll be very low, and then there's lots that are higher. But if we look down below, so for PlusROI, thankfully, we have a high click-through rate and are in position 1 for our own brand name, which isn't surprising. This is interesting where some blog posting we did actually as a client resource for doing responsive ads is showing up a lot. So there's this responsive display ads examples. It's showing up on average in position 3.2. There's terms like stages of SEO, Google responsive display ads examples. So this is great. So that and I hate to admit that we're not currently being proactive in search engine optimization. We're busy with all our client stuff, and sadly our own seems to come last. But this is a gold mine for actually getting some topics to blog about and to post about on your site. And a big reason for that is that if you can show up and get some exposure on a topic, particularly if it's one that you didn't mean to, then you can have a lot of confidence that you can actually go and flesh it out properly for whatever the topic or keyword is and expect to get more traffic. So that's a great place to look, rather than just say going to one of the keyword tools, which we're going to do in a minute, but rather than just going to one of the keyword tools and picking one of the examples of a keyword that looks like it has lots of volume and you want to rank for, this is a much more certain way of being able to build more volume. And again, I look at things like this term stages of SEO, and it's like, oh, I should build that out further as a more fleshed out blog post. Also, we can see that the click-through is not bad, but at 1.6%, we could, in 9th position, we could probably increase the position and make the Google headline and description, aka the meta title and the meta description, we could probably make those more compelling and increase the click-through rate of those and get more traffic. And in fact, at PlusROI, we once did do this exercise for a photo sharing company that at the time was in the top 10 of websites in the whole world. And we're actually able to measurably get traffic for them by going and improving the meta titles and descriptions of the low performing terms that were coming up in search. So I better get off that topic or we'll be here all day. So Google Tag Manager, kind of boring, but very powerful. And it's great. We use it, again, every single client we have has it running because it just makes life way easier for a number of tracking things. So it's great for third-party tags, and it's great for creating custom conversion goals. And so digging into that a bit, what third-party tags are is basically anywhere, any of the social platforms you work with, any of the advertising platforms, they're all going to have tags that they make available that they want you to put on their website. So when you do that, essentially, you run the risk of breaking your website, for one thing, when you inject these tags. Another thing we always see is people forget about tags. So we'll come across client sites that have like literally 6 different versions of the Google Analytics tag. Really kind of just creates clutter and mess, can slow down your site. And also, you basically need a developer to insert your tags. But what Google Tag Manager does is it creates one single tag. So all you have to do is put your Google Tag Manager tag on your website, and then basically it's a container for that. So no longer do you have to get a developer to go and put your tags on the website, but you as a marketer, if you're willing to do a bit of learning about it, can just go and plug all your tags into the Google Tag Manager. Or if there is a developer on your team, they'll certainly be able to do that, no problem. I'm not a developer, and I've been able to figure it out, so it can't be that hard. It also, in putting in those tags for places like LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest, if you're doing social activity or doing advertising, is it helps give you deep insights right within their platform about what's happening with the visitors that are coming from those platforms to your website. And it also helps you build retargeting audiences. So for instance, if you're doing Facebook ads and want to retarget everybody that went and actually clicked through on the ads and or visited a certain page on your website, that totally enables that. And the one thing about this is that you don't want to blindly trust the conversion data. The way the social media networks interpret your activity data on your website, they're very generous with it. It's not that they're inaccurate, because the data is accurate, but the way they interpret the data is very generous to themselves in terms of basically they take claim for a lot that quite possibly other marketing sources are more responsible for. And so that's where Google Analytics comes in, and we touch on that in the GA4 webinar that I mentioned that's available on the website, the archive. And so jumping in, the other things are the custom conversions. And in short, with Google Analytics, it's really easy to set conversion goals. So if people are doing important things on your website, like filling out a form and submitting an inquiry, if somebody's clicking your phone number to call you, somebody's downloading a white paper, watching a video, all these things can be set up as goal conversions in Google Analytics in order that you can track them to the marketing source or the advertising that got those visitors to the website. It's sort of a must-do if you're serious about the web. Where it gets kind of challenging is that a lot of the conversions can't be fully created in Google Analytics 4. So for instance, if you had a bunch of different white papers and wanted to see which ones were getting downloaded, you would actually use Google Tag Manager to create separate tags for each of those individual downloads. And then you'd be able to measure those downloads as individual goals rather than an aggregate, as well as seeing the sources of traffic for the people who completed those goals. Another big one that we do all the time is that if somebody submits an inquiry form on your website, we really like to do it internally so that when somebody submits a form, They're then taken to a thank you page that thanks them for their submission. And that thank you page is really easy to set up as a goal. However, a lot of sites and a lot of form building software have a message that comes up on the page. And so you submit the form, and then there's a message on the page that says, "Oh, thanks for submitting. We'll be in touch shortly." Google Tag Manager allows you to create a custom conversion that will then track that submission by basically it reads that when that text appears on the page, it knows that the goal has been completed and it tracks it. So, and just a couple examples of conversion. This is one from a client site. So for instance, they have generate lead conversion, a sign up conversion, and then a phone conversion. And so again, in all those examples, we track the marketing sources that drove those activities and conversions, and then you can calculate ROI, you can figure out which ones are working, you can identify where to spend your time and your money on your activities. And so that said, let's jump to the Google Ads keyword tool. And just to be clear, this tool is within Google Ads, so you do need to sign up for a Google Ads account to get access to it. That said, your ads don't actually need to be running. Another thing that's really important about it is that it is an ads tool, but it's looking at the volume of searches on specific keywords in Google. So the data is 100% applicable to search engine optimization. So even if you're never doing ads, it may still make sense to sign up for an ads account just to be able to use the keyword tool. And again, you don't have to pay money in doing that. So let's jump in. There's our Google Tag Manager example, which I didn't look at. There's our internal one where actually the team was creating a bunch of Google Analytics for going really deep in order to fully understand that new platform. Jumping over to our keyword planner. And so essentially in Google Ads, you click on the keyword planner. Done that already. And so we come onto this page, which there we go. And so in this example, I picked just picked the term chiropractor and a couple of variations here in my hometown of Victoria, BC. And so what you can see is that Google does a couple things with the keywords. First, it gives you a list of the keywords that you entered and shows roughly the volume of monthly searches. I might mention that depending on your status in ads, you might see ranges of volume rather than the exact volume, but still quite valuable. And then it also shows closely related keyword ideas down here, and then makes suggestions up here that you can also add in. So I added in back pain specialist. Oh, there are some people searching on that. Let's put in spine specialist. And so essentially, depending on the nature of what you're doing, and in fact, with companies, for instance, that sell multiple products and services, you can get lists that are thousands long. And then actually the cool thing about it is you can also download them, which we almost always do to then sort through them. And in this example, there's 1,881 different searches. So we'll just open up Excel here. And this is, of course, just for the Victoria market, which is a fairly small market. If you're advertising at a larger level, you'd get a ton more data. And often, too, if you want to look at the relative difference between keywords, if you're in a small market, sometimes it makes sense to expand the region because you select the geography that you want to research. You can select your state or province, or you can select the entire country. And except for some very certain topics and services that have regionally specific sort of language around them, most everything is proportionately the same across the country. There's just not as much difference as some folks might think. So again, if you want to you can see there's lots of things that are like 10 volumes of 10 to 30. If you want to get a better idea of the relative size of some of these different keywords, you could expand to the whole country or again, state or province. And in going through, you can now see if you're optimizing your site for search engine optimization. There's some great ideas in here. It gives a bit of a framework. And I mentioned in the pro tip that what what you want to do if you're wondering how you might rank for something is, so for instance, I Googled chiropractor Victoria, and if you're trying to figure out, well, it doesn't make sense to invest in search engine optimization to try and get on the first page. And the answer really is like, well, how likely is it that you're going to get one of these positions on the first page? So there's a great tool called Moz.com that has this link explorer. It's been around under different names for a long time. So you can I'm copying one of these links from the first page, entering it here. I'm going to go back while that's loading. I'll grab another result from a little bit lower on the page. And then in here, so it's showing the domain authority among some other information. We won't dig into this right now, but if you click on compare link profiles in Moz, and incidentally, we've got a professional membership, but I believe there's still free trials or limited free memberships. And even if you did need to pay for a month, you can subscribe for a month, get a ton of value out of the research. So essentially, you can enter up to 5 different domains at once. And what we would do is compare our own site or a client site against the first page competitors. And then kind of the magic number is this domain authority column right here. And all things being equal, if all sites are optimized at the same level, in that case, the site with the highest domain authority usually ranks higher. So if you're close to one of the competitors in domain authority, if you optimize better than them, you can definitely show up ahead of them. But just in terms of raw potential, this domain authority gives you a really good sense. So if you're a brand new chiropractor, you'd have a domain authority of like 1 out of 100. And you'd have to realize it. And if you looked at 5 of the top results on Google's first page and realized that they all had domain authorities of say 18 to 25, you would at that point conclude that SEO is absolutely not a short-term strategy for you. Might still make sense to spend a bit of time on SEO, but at that point, you're going to know it's a multi-year strategy before you're showing up, at least for that particular keyword. And again, I'm at risk of getting off track here, so we're going to jump right back in. Actually, although I will just quickly show there are other interesting ones, like I was researching an electrical company for what works, and discovered that they had really expensive ads. So if we look at this, it also gives a rough cost to appear at the top of the page. Chiropractic is $3 to $5, which is a little bit pricey, but not horrendous. These electrical ones I was looking at were along the lines of $15 to $30 per click. But yet, when we looked into it, the SEO competitors had quite low domain authority. So that's an example where it very much made sense to focus on search engine optimization instead of ads for that client. But again, all that data is in there. So Google Business Profile is really important. This is the panel we see on the right here, and we'll have a quick live look in a moment. But it's the single most powerful opportunity for local search. Basically, whether your Google Business Profile shows up is based on the relevance of what someone's searching for to your company, based on the quality of your business profile, and on the proximity or how close somebody is to you. So, and in this case, we'll have a quick look, but my pro tip, which we see over and over again, is it really helps to make sure that consider your Google Business Profile to be the template for all the naming and descriptions that you use on all other business directories and locations online. And then make absolutely sure that all of your listings are properly and consistently built out. So across things like the Yellow Pages, Facebook, whatever properties or profiles you're on, make sure your name is identical on each of them. And this seems like a logical, obvious thing, but so many people have subtle differences, and that kind of confuses Google, and it can confuse clients as well. But just make sure that absolutely everything is the same across all your profiles. So quickly jumping back here in this electrician example. So we can see there's the Google local ads, which is a new thing that's just reached Canada lately, been in the US for quite a while. A couple sponsored results. Oh, and then there's our Google business profile. So these are drawn from Google Maps, and clicking on this will bring up their Google business profile. So again, doing the work to get a prominent and high quality business profile is some of the most highly leveraged stuff that you can do. And here's an example, some friends and clients at Maple Leaf Adventures, they have a wonderfully fleshed out business profile. So you can see they've got, they could use some more reviews, but they've got reviews, they've got high reviews, and actually I wouldn't worry about having all 5-star reviews, because that makes people wonder if they're legitimate, because nobody's perfect. But they've got obviously their address, their hours, all their phone information. They have a couple of questions and answers that are in there. They've got their reviews. And then if your profile and your online presence is well enough fleshed out, Google will automatically show all your other profiles. And again, spending some time on here. One thing they're not doing on here, which they could do at the moment, is to add some posts. So you can do little posts in Google Business Profile. Sort of funny, because nobody's actually going to see them or read them, but they're a signal to Google that you're active, and Google likes that. So I wouldn't worry too much about creating custom posts for Google Business Profile, but if you are posting on any other social platforms, definitely you can do an abbreviated post on Google Business Profile when you're jumping in and doing those, and it doesn't take any time. Very quick to do. Google Merchant Center. Actually, we're doing pretty good for time. We're right on track. Google Merchant Center. Basically, you can see the results of a Google Merchant Center search over here. So I searched MTB, or Mountain Bike Shoes Canada. And then these results came up. And so these image results are powered by the Google Merchant Center. And essentially what the Google Merchant Center is, it's a feed that connects from your website through the Merchant Center to Google Ads, where you can run these Google shopping ads. And well, ads, of course, are paid for, but this also makes your products eligible to show up for free. So I'm not going to suggest that you're going to get an absolute ton of traffic through the Google Merchant Center, but even if you're not running ads, if you're on a platform that supports it, it's absolutely worthwhile to set up the Google Merchant Center. Google doesn't like to have empty results, and so there are cases, again, depending on your specific industry, how many people are trying to advertise on your products, you can and will have your products show up for free in a display similar to this. Again, usually pretty straightforward with Shopify or WooCommerce. There are apps and plugins that make it really easy to hook up your shopping feed to the Google Merchant Center. And lastly, if you just have a small shop and maybe not a sophisticated setup, and you don't have a feed that can get connected, you can actually create a spreadsheet and then import it directly into Google Merchant Center. And again, it's not the simplest thing in the world, but it is totally manageable. And I have done that myself, again, as a non-developer, not a technical person. You can absolutely figure it out. So, and the last platform, the free platform we'll touch on, is YouTube. So of course, YouTube is free to post videos. One thing that's really valuable in it is that it allows embeds on your site. So as in this example, there's Google Analytics for Beginners video that I put up, gosh, hard to imagine it's 5 years ago, but apparently 5 years ago. And not exactly a viral success, but it did generate 838 views. And so that's not bad, considering there's no promotion around it and it's not a key part of our strategy. That's quite reasonable. And then in the other shot there, you can see the blog post where we put it. And interestingly, we've actually gotten thousands of visitors to that blog post. Part of it will be that the YouTube embed on the page, which an embed is, you basically embed the video right on the page, takes literally seconds to do when you're doing a post. kind of tightens the connection with Google. And as long as everything's relevant and done well, it will actually boost your SEO. Outside of the embed part, I mean, YouTube is also the world's second largest search engine. So there's more people searching on Google than anywhere else, of course. And then the second biggest place people are searching is absolutely in the search bar on YouTube. I will share that to become popular on YouTube is an absolutely different thing from just doing these basics. You have to really work at it to get popular and be quite committed. But even just using it for embeds and basic SEO can be quite valuable. There's some other things as well, like you can actually, in terms of ranking in SEO with a video, actually the video in this image is a funny one because it's one we did for a client, actually did it personally for a client back in 2011 as a proof of concept. It's for a company that does sort of movie slideshow software when it was kind of still somewhat new. And so I optimized this video with the term vacation video slideshow. And I literally used that well, the client embraced that strategy. We did some more videos and that video would show up in Google search results as a video thumbnail if somebody Googled vacation video slideshow. It did get thousands of views. And again, wonderful proof of concept, and it lasted for years. It would show up in Google search results if somebody Googled that. So basically, the quick tips are optimize your video title. Make sure to include keywords if you have some plans for keywords you want to rank for that. Put a link in the first line of your description. If you have an embedded post, link to that post right in the description. And mention there's the blog on your site. Something I'm, well, embarrassingly sometimes too lazy to do, but write a keyword optimized, fully fleshed out description on YouTube. And then lastly, try and share your video a bit and promote your video to your network and get some momentum going around it. Activity brings activity in Google. And so again, something I haven't done much for our own work, but can definitely help get the flywheel turning. Got a few resources here. We are wrapping up the formal portion here. Got a few resources here that basically the Google Analytics 4 walkthrough is on the PlusROI website. There's a Google Business Profile post on our What Works website called Cracking the Google 3-Pack, getting some tips and showing up in those prominent positions. And then there's some YouTube tips as well, getting a little bit more in depth of what I mentioned there. And again, share this presentation and links. Next month, we're going to start a quick series, short webinar series on online success. And the logical place to start is going to be creating and refining your web marketing strategy. So we will email some information about that one. We're going to make these short and sweet, and as the old album name went, all killer, no filler. That'll probably show my age by saying that, but hope to see you again on one of those. And also, please feel free to get in touch. We'll stay on the Q&A right now. Anybody that is moving along to other things, thanks for coming out. No need to stick around if you're not curious about the question and answer, although if you do have specific questions, we'll stay in chat as long as you like. I always love meeting up with folks from the webinars on LinkedIn, and am happy to personally answer your questions about web marketing. So you can just get in touch at rob@plusroi.com. And with that said, yeah, let's look at the Q&A. So Justin has asked a couple questions. Hey, Justin, is it better to use YouTube than Vimeo Pro? And that's a great question, and one that I struggled with when we launched our What Works website last year. And in our case, we've done both. Essentially, marketing posts where the goal is to get exposure, we use YouTube as the embed, because then they gets exposure on YouTube, has the opportunity to show up in a bunch of other places. Vimeo videos can show up in Google search, but in practice, they don't usually. I think part of that is because they're not typically optimized in the same manner. And the other thing is I think Google, of course, owns YouTube and they like YouTube. So what we do use Vimeo Pro for, though, is videos where access, where we have member only access and things like that. So Vimeo has some very cool tools where you can make it so that your video only shows up on certain pages or certain website domains. So in our case, we just set that that it can only show up on pages for logged in users in our membership site. And then separately, how does Shopify affect SEO? Well, Shopify, and it's funny because folks will talk a lot about how WordPress is better for SEO than Shopify. And WordPress is definitely better from a perspective if you have a content strategy and they're doing an advanced sort of blog strategy with categories of tags. WordPress is still way better. But overall, Shopify now has all the features built in for SEO. So it's unless there's a special use case, I wouldn't say that Shopify does affect SEO. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of WordPress or any other solid platform when it comes to it. With WordPress still being the king for content strategy SEO.